This is season 2 of Nusantara Fairy Tales with Heidi, and tonight I will be telling you a story from Thailand called Pikul Tong. Come join me. Once upon a time, there was a girl called Phikul Thong who was kind, gentle, helpful, and extremely beautiful, which caused a lot of problems. Unfortunately for Phikul Thong, she lived with two of the most envious women in the village, her stepmother and her stepsister. Day by day, Pikul Tong's beauty blossomed until the very sight of her face made her stepmother and her stepsister ill. They forced her to do all the chores around the house. They dressed her in rags and only gave her scraps of food. However, Pikul Tong never complained. In fact, she was just grateful to be alive. She was grateful to have a roof over her head and some food to eat. One day, the stepmother said to Pikul Tong, go down to the river and fetch me some water now. Make sure you don't dilly-dally. Come back as soon as you can. If you come back late, I shall be very angry. Pikul Tong nodded and said she understood. She took her pail and began her long walk to the river. As she walked, she was feeling quite cheerful. The sun was shining, the birds were singing. She was feeling good. And when she got to the river, she filled her little bucket up and began her walk back home. On the way back from the river, Pikul Tong saw an old woman sitting by the side of the road. The woman looked frail and weak, and Pikul Tong was worried about her, so she approached the woman. "Grandma, are you quite well?" she asked. The old woman looked at Pikul Tong and she said, "I am feeling quite thirsty, my child." And Pikul Tong replied, "Well, here, you must drink this water." And she gave the old woman all the water from her pail. The old woman took the water and she drank the whole lot. And then she looked at Pikul Tong and smiled, and she said to her, "You are a good, kind soul, and you will be rewarded." And with that, the old woman got up and shuffled away. And since her pail was empty now, Pikul Tong had to go back to the river and fill it up. And by the time she reached home, it was already late, and she was met by the angry face of her stepmother. "How dare you defy me? I told you to be quick. I told you to come back as soon as possible." Pikul Tong was very frightened and she wanted to explain what had happened, but as soon as she opened her mouth, something peculiar happened. A beautiful golden flower fell from her lips. Pikul Tong tried to speak again, and more of these beautiful golden flowers tumbled out of her mouth. The stepmother and stepsister were shocked, but when the stepsister took a closer look at the flowers, she noticed that they were the flowers of the Tanjung tree, and these flowers were extremely valuable. "Mother, look, we can take these flowers and sell them at the market. We'll be rich." And so from that day onwards, the evil stepmother forced Pikul Tong to speak night and day in order to produce these beautiful golden flowers. At first, Pikul Tong was happy to help her stepmother, but gradually she grew weaker and weaker until one day she completely lost her voice. "This will not do," said the stepmother, and she ordered her stepdaughter to go down to the river. "You must find that old woman and get her to give you this gift." The next day, the stepsister took the pail and went off to the river. She looked everywhere, but she did not find an old woman. However, she did come face to face with a beautiful, elegant lady in the finest silk robes. Her long, dark hair was braided with golden ribbons. When the stepsister saw the lady's beauty and her fine clothes, she was so envious. "Greetings, my child. I need some help. Will you help me, please?" asked the beautiful lady. The stepsister sniffed at the lady and said to her, "Why should I help you? You look well enough to me." And she whirled around and walked back home. When she reached home, the stepmother ran to her daughter. "Well, did you meet the old woman?" asked the stepmother. When the stepsister opened her mouth, a wriggly, fat worm fell from her lips. Horrified, she screamed, and as a result, more and more worms crawled out of her mouth and fell to the ground. The stepmother looked at her daughter and then turned towards Pikul Tong. "You lied to us. There was no woman who gave you this gift. I want you out of this house now. Be gone." Poor Pikul Tong was banished from her home. She ran into the forest because she had nowhere to go, and for days she lived on the fruit and nuts in the forest. She wondered how long she would last. One day, she thought she caught a glimpse of Grandma, and she began to walk in that direction. As she stepped from behind a tree, she bumped into a handsome young man who was a prince out hunting in the woods. The prince was so taken by Pikul Tong's beauty that he dropped his bow and arrow. "Why do you look so sad?" asked the prince. Pikul Tong told him her story, and as she spoke, the golden flowers fell once more from her lips. "You have nothing to fear, Pikul Tong, for you are a kind, gentle soul, and I will do my best to help you." The prince took Pikul Tong back to his kingdom, where they fell in love and lived happily ever after. The end. And that is the story of Pikul Tong. Now, if you recall from the last season, I did tell you quite a similar story, which is from Malaysia and Indonesia, called Bawang Putih, Bawang Merah, and the Magic Pumpkin. Now, Pikul Tong is a folk tale from Thailand, and it has similar traits and qualities to the story of Bawang Putih, Bawang Merah, in that we look at what it means to be good and what it means to be bad. So just like the tales of Bawang Putih, Bawang Merah, and the Magic Pumpkin, and the Gift of the Winter Melon, this tale highlights the power and agency of the older woman, the grandma in this story. And she is able to bestow rewards and punishment upon the two girls, which she does in accordance to their behavior. So it's quite interesting because there is a European kind of equivalent to this story. It's a Grimm's brothers fairy tale called The Three Little Men in the Woods. So in this particular story, the kind sister is rewarded when gold coins fall from her lips. Another fairy tale by Charles Perrault called The Fairies, which is also known as Diamonds and Toads. So you can guess what falls from people's lips in that story. The good daughter is rewarded when not only flowers, but diamonds and pearls fall from her lips when she speaks. Now, I don't know about you, but if I had a choice between flowers and diamonds and pearls, I know which one I'd choose. So why does the Thai version focus on this natural gift, this flower from the Tanjung tree? Why don't we have something a bit more valuable like gold or money? Well, it is thought that the Thai version of this story focuses on flowers because the predominantly Buddhist people in this country, in this region, place a high value on compassion and kindness. And that's kindness not just in deeds, but in words as well. Interestingly, the flowers that feature in the story are flowers from the Tanjung tree, or the bullet wood tree, which is considered to be quite a valuable tree. I'm going to actually read a quote from my book, Nusantara, A Sea of Tales. The bullet wood is a tropical tree which grows in the forests of Southeast Asia and South Asia. This tree is held in high esteem and has appeared in many other folk tales. For example, the Thai folk tale of Pikul Tong, and also the story of the Tanjung Blossom Fairy. So it says here, the bark, flowers, seeds, and fruit of this tree are commonly used for medicinal purposes. In addition, the flowers can be dried and made into tea, and the fruits are edible. The wood is extremely hard and strong. So it's not just any old flower. This is quite a special flower. So the question we all want to know is, how does this fairy tale, how does this folk tale relate to our lives today? Now, for me, this folktale is all about what it means to be good and what it means to be bad. Who decides what is good and what is bad behavior? And is it appropriate for a writer or storyteller to tell us, i.e., the society at large, the definition of what it means to be good and bad through these stories? Is it appropriate for storytellers to tell people what to do and how to behave? To explore this question, I want to tell you a snippet of a fascinating story from the Philippines called The Sweet and Sour Sister. Now, this folktale from the Philippines also explores this a definition of what it means to be good and bad, and it is a story that I will definitely tell in a later episode because it's just scandalous. So in this story, the story of the sweet and sour sister, the good sister is called Mirat Bawa, and she is portrayed as being sweet, docile, passive, compliant, and above all feminine. The bad sister, Mapia Bawa, on the other hand, is problematic simply because she has unfeminine traits such as strong views and opinions, and basically she doesn't tolerate fools. So I won't tell you the whole story here. I'll save it for another episode. But in one of the scenes from this folktale, a fish asks the good sister if it can pluck one of her pubic hairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. So what does the good sister do? She actually just laughs it off and tolerates this otherwise unacceptable behavior. She says, yeah, sure, why not? And she is rewarded for it. Faced with the same situation, the bad sister does not tolerate this sexual harassment and outright tells the fish off, as she should. But she gets punished for it. She gets punished for not being compliant, for not being sweet-natured and friendly. She gets labeled as the bad sister simply for defending herself and standing up for what she believes in. This is just one of the interesting issues that this story brings up. And for me, this is what folk tales and fairy tales are all about. They don't provide us with an answer. What they do is raise the issue, they raise the question so that we can look at the problem in different ways and try to apply it to our own lives. And this is why, if you've noticed, fairy tales are so cut and dry. They are extreme and over-exaggerated. In these stories, you are either good or bad. There is no nuance or gray area. There is no backstory or explanation. Now, does that really apply in reality? Most of us in general strive to be good, but we are just mere humans. Sometimes we have good days, sometimes we have bad days or bad moments, and we fail. We fail miserably. We fight with our siblings over something trivial. We get impatient with our parents. We can't always be good all the time. We are just humans. So this tale seems to be a story which tries to civilize us. Be good so that you will be rewarded with valuable flowers, diamonds, pearls, whatever. It's a story our elders tell us when we're young to make us behave. But is this a good thing? Shouldn't we discover for ourselves what it means to be good or bad? So those are just my thoughts about the issues raised in this story. What do you think? I would love to hear your thoughts, so please do leave a comment below. If you like this video, please do like and subscribe to this channel. Please do share this channel with your friends and family. Support me in my mission to get these Nusantara fairy tales out there. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for joining me. But don't go just yet. Check out episode 35 and 36, which are connected to the issues raised in this particular story, Pikul Tong. And I shall see you in the next episode.